The most powerful person I have ever met in my life is a man who had stumps for arms. At one point in time, he had beautiful hands, and when I met him, his arms had been cut off and he only had stumps. And at first, he really unnerved me and made me uncomfortable, but as I engaged in conversation with him, I encountered someone who truly was the most powerful person I had ever met, because he had a knowledge that I've never encountered in another human being. And the knowledge that he had was the knowledge of deep, deep tragedy, deep pain, deep disappointment. But he also was a wizard. He was a magician. He understood how to change tragedy into comedy and ultimately into the grandest epic adventure of life. The tragedy that he experienced was the losing of his arms. His arms were cut off, chopped off by machete. And the person who chopped off his arms was his next door neighbor, someone who he had known for years. This was during the war, the genocide, the insane civil unrest in Rwanda. And this man, someone that he knew personally, chopped off his arms and left him for dead. And he did not die. He survived that experience, and once he recovered and was able to return, he returned back to his home where he had been living, and right next door to him was the man who had cut off his arms. And he woke up every day knowing that this is the man who brutalized him and left him for dead. And he decided that if he was ever going to recover his dignity and understand how to move forward in his life, he was going to have to forgive. Just have to forgive the actions that this man did. And he didn't do it in a big grandiose way. He just decided that he was going to move forward in love and forgive this man. Didn't mean that he would forget it, but that he would forgive it and let it go for himself. Well, the man didn't understand and came to him very angrily and said, I don't understand why you are living here. And he said, because this is my home. This is my home. But why would you come back here? The man was very afraid that at some point he was going to retaliate and harm him. And he said, you are safe. You are safe. I will never hurt you. I don't have hands. How could I? And made a joke out of it, made a laugh out of it, and said, you're safe. You're safe. I am safe and you are safe. And we're moving forward. And every day, the angry man came over and said, I just don't believe you. And he said, that is your choice. But I'm moving on. And this happened day after day until finally, the man finally accepted it. And they lived side by side. And I happened to meet this armless, beautiful man because others heard about his story and shared it because they were in awe of the wisdom and beauty that this man had uncovered. And I met him in North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina. His love and his forgiveness took him from Africa to places all around the world. And that is how we transform tragedy into comedy, and comedy into the epic adventure of our lives. When I was in high school, my English teacher taught us this concept. She taught it to us in a chart. And I made a little chart to kind of illustrate it. She said that the shape of tragedy starts off upward. You think everything's going to work out right, and then it crashes. And you are shocked and dismayed as bodies pile up on the stage. And you think, this is tragedy. This is horrible. There's no way anyone can recover from that. The shape of comedy, so let me see, so kind of that right there, that is the shape of tragedy. But comedy, when you zoom out, comedy also starts with some good and then some horrible bad, but something allows it to turn around and come back up again. So comedy is recovery from tragedy. In order to have comedy, you must have tragedy. You must have the moment where you go, I have no hands. How can I kill you? How can I hurt you? It is the nature of comedy to take tragedy and turn it on its head. And then the bigger shape is the shape of the epic. And the epic is like the story of the Iliad, this long adventure that goes back and forth between tragic and comic, and tragic and comic, and tragic and comic. That is the shape of our lives. If you notice, it's also the shape of our DNA. You add one more little helix in here, and that, my friends, that is the shape of our DNA. That is the shape of the human journey. Tragedy is part of it. Pain is part of it. Confusion is part of it. Misunderstandings, thinking that you understood the way the world worked, and having it come around and seem to destroy everything that you thought you knew. It's part of it. That's part of life. I've been thinking a lot of how to respond to some things that are going on in the world right now. I've always been fascinated by historic memoirs and stories of people who are going along through their normal lives only to have history kind of come and bowl them over. The Diary of Anne Frank, Night by Elie Wiesel, various stories of just normal human beings who got caught up in something that seemed unimaginable. And it always fascinated me how they were able to endure that experience and find the strength to continue forward. The last few years of my life, I have experienced the tragic unimaginable. I can remember years ago saying, I think I could endure quite a lot, but the loss of one of my parents would just gut me and leave me lost. And then it happened. And I watched my father dissolve physically, mentally. But as all of him was dissolving, as these tumors were raging inside of his brain and just dissolving who he was, he never dissolved emotionally. And he certainly bloomed spiritually because he embraced the tragedy and turned it into a comedy. He, in the last few weeks of his life, he finally came to a place where he accepted the pain and the hurt and the disappointment and disillusionment that he had been fighting for his whole life, and finally said, you know what? In the midst of all of this pain, I have been blessed. And I've been fixated and focused so much on everything I thought that I lost, or I thought that I never really experienced as victory. And I haven't seen all the blessings that have been here all along. And that, my friends, that is the moment that tragedy turns into comedy. It is deepest wisdom. It is love of the highest degree. And I was saddened yesterday when I was flicking my way through Facebook and I saw that someone who I love and respect dearly posted and said, well, I guess that hate trumps love after all. And I thought, don't do it. I mean, you can have those thoughts and you can indulge in those deep pains for a bit. It's okay. But eventually, gonna have to find the comedy behind it. Gonna have to be the ones who lead forward and say, oh, no, this is just a moment. This is just a little downward turn. But I'm in for the long haul. I'm in for the long ride. I'm here for the epic journey that it is. And that's what I need to teach the people around me. Not me. Like, this is the call to us as parents and teachers and educators, is to show young people, hey, there are going to be things that come along that you cannot even imagine. You think, nah, no way, that would never happen, and it does. And it sits on your head and makes you feel like a 10 million pound gorilla is just bashing you. And you just think there's no way. And yet, you will survive it. You will survive it, you will learn from it, you will grow from it, and it is that growth that is the comedy. Right now, it feels kind of tragic. Not just because things, I can look at it and I go, like, I didn't think that things were going to go this way. But the tragedy is not, that things went a way that I didn't think that they were going to go. I don't believe is the right way. The tragedy is that there is so much frustration and anger and pain and people feeling disillusioned and lost. That's the tragedy. That's the tragedy, is that we have become so alien to each other. We've built these friendships that don't really connect us. And it is time for us to look around and say, okay, it is my responsibility to build the relationships with people who don't think and feel and act like me. Because if anything is ever going to change, it has to start with me. Going back with that man whose next door neighbor cut off his own arms and left him for dead. The relationship started with him. The relationship started with him saying, okay, I'm still alive, and there's still opportunity here for us to learn from each other. I don't have to come to your house and eat with you, but I'm never going to harm you. And I will stand in this place, and I will insist on my own dignity and my own love. That's what we need to consider right now. And it's okay to feel hateful. When I have studied meditation, think the greatest lesson that I have learned is that I have these thoughts inside and I think, oh, I'm not supposed to be thinking these things. I'm not supposed to be feeling these things. And it is the resistance to the feeling that allows the feeling to continue. When I hear people say, well, I like Donald Trump because he says the things that we're all thinking, hey, let's acknowledge that. Yeah, he does. He says hateful, hurtful, harmful things, and we all think them. And to say to ourselves, well, but I don't think things like that. I don't think racist things. I don't think misogynistic things. I don't think those types of things. Well, you know what? I got to cop up to some stuff. I do. I think hateful things about other people. And maybe it's by just copping up to that and saying, all right, I'm human too. And I need to seek my own forgiveness first. I seek my own forgiveness first. I admit to my own nasty nasties. And I start there. And then by loving myself, by accepting that I am just as foul and nasty and disrespectful inside my own head as other people may be vocalizing outside, that's where I start, because I'm just as angry and calling people names. You friggin' idiot, da-da-da. I mean, I say a lot nastier things inside my head. I'm just not going to do it right here. But I say all those horrible things. I scapegoat. I blame. I build walls inside of my own head. So, to turn that, the only way it turns from a tragedy into a comedy is by looking at it and saying, all right, here's where we are. And we hang in here, and it will grow, and it will shift, and it will change. It will go up, it will go down. We're in this for the long haul, and we don't disconnect. We don't throw other people away. And we won't, I've got to look at myself in the mirror and find my own power by taking responsibility for my own self. This is the journey that I chose. I believe I came into this place at this point in time in history, like my soul chose it. That's my choice. That's what I believe, is that my soul chose this time and this particular experience. So why? Why? Because this is the epic journey of me. So what I call for in the work that I do then is in helping show young people how to find their direction in life, is how to build relationships with people, how to build relationships with teachers who are coming at it from a different angle than them, how to rebuild once they've had nasty experiences with other people in their classes and professors, and how to find forgiveness, because it truly is their ability to form relationships with others that will make them successful and powerful in life. So if I'm going to teach it to young people, I have to practice it with myself. So that's what I've been thinking about lately, and that's the lesson that I'm teaching myself today. So I offer it out to the world and hope that there is something there that can bring some help and guidance to you today. So be safe, be responsible for yourself, and find the forgiveness, find the love, find the comedy, and enjoy the journey, because we're in it. We're in it for the long haul. At least I am. Have a great day.